Groups, a place to belong, a place to grow. Together, groups pursue Jesus. We're so glad that you're here. Welcome to your group. Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to Groups. This week, we're going to talk about power. We kicked off our Easter series called Easter Bad Guys on Sunday with an all-in family service. Over Easter, we're going to look at various bad guy characters in the Easter story and see what we can learn. For those of you who were there on Sunday, I hope that you had a good time. It was a joyous Sunday, and I loved the many laughs that were shared. So if you were there, you would remember that Danny enlisted some volunteers to help him with his message. And these volunteers played the parts of Pilate and Caiaphas. So for my warm-up question, I wanted to ask you, would you have volunteered to help Danny out? Why or why not? All right, let's dive into the sermon from this week. We looked at two villains from the Easter story, Caiaphas and Pilate, with the purpose of seeing what we can learn about Easter, Jesus, and ourselves. Pastor Danny shared how these two people represent the two big powers at the time, the religious leaders, or the Sanhedrin, and Rome. We see that these two men both have a large amount of power, and they both misuse it in some way. So I want us to discuss that today. Power, specifically misuse of power, is one of the huge ways that we see sin affect the world around us. Power is, powerful, and unfortunately, humans kind of suck at having power. And this makes its way into the church as well. Talking about power and its misuse is a big topic of discussion in the world right now, and I believe that is for good reason. I hope that our conversation today can get us thinking about some of the ways that power influences us and how we are called as Christians to be restorative in this way. So let's dive into talking about Caiaphas, who was a religious leader given power to rule over the religious affairs by the Romans. But there was a problem. These guys used their power for their own good, and ultimately that led to them having Jesus killed. This is in stark contrast to the way that Jesus used his power. Remember that Jesus has an incredible amount of power. We see this demonstrated time and time again through the Gospel of Mark as Jesus performs miracles. But Philippians 2, 5-8 tells us that Jesus made himself nothing by becoming a servant. Jesus takes power and uses it for the good of others. When we have power, we are called to use it wisely, not for our own good, but to follow the model of Jesus and lay down our lives for one another. Not to lord our power over one another, but to humbly work for the good of humanity as Jesus did. So I want you to think about the places where you hold power. For some of you, this will be a lot, right? Some of you listening are privileged with a lot of power, but some of you have far less power. But think about the places where you do have power. I want you to ask yourself this: do you abuse your power? Do you use your power more like Caiaphas and use it for your own good? Or do you follow after the model of Jesus and use your power for the good of others? And this is a tough question that may be difficult to say yes to and honestly reflect on. However, I want you to do your best to be honest as you discuss this question. Part of growing is admitting that you have room to grow. So, I ask you, where do you see yourself abusing your power? Discuss that with your group now. All right, well, welcome back from discussion. I want us to now take a look at Pilate and what we can learn about power from him. So as Danny laid out on Sunday, Pilate also had a lot of power, and he too misused it, but in a different way than Caiaphas. Pilate had the power to send Jesus to be crucified, but also the power to let him go free. And we know which choice he made. He listened to the crowd even though he had no good reason to crucify Jesus, and used his power to sentence Jesus to death. What I see in Pilate is someone who misuses his power by again not doing what was right out of self-interest. But this time he chooses not to use his power, right? So Caiaphas used his power out of self-interest to have Jesus crucified. But Pilate chooses not to use his power out of self-interest and stood by and allowed Jesus to be crucified. So this is the second way that we can abuse our power. When we have been given a power, we can choose not to use it for the good of others. So I want to ask you, where do you see yourself neglecting your power? Where are places that you have power that could be used for good, but instead of utilizing that power, you are standing by and choosing not to make a difference out of self-interest? There could be many reasons for this. Fear, sort of like Pilate, fear about what will happen to you, what may be the opinion of you. Feelings of inadequacy, like you can't actually do anything. So, where do you see yourself neglecting to use your power? Okay, I hope you have had a good discussion around the topic of power. I would encourage you to continue this conversation if it has caught your interest, right? We are called to emulate Jesus as he navigated the power he had been given for the good of others. If you've got any time left, I would encourage you to chat about ways God is encouraging and growing you, share any struggles that you are going through, and pray with and for each other in your group. Like I said, power is a huge topic of discussion, and it's because we have misused it in so many times, in so many ways. So keep this conversation going. Until next time, I'll see you later.